Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Neeru Tandon, Department of English, VSST College, Kanpur. We are discussing paper 13, Linguistics. In this particular module number 9, phoneme, syllable and word accent has been written by Dr. Banibrat Mahanta, Associate Professor, Department of English, BHU Varanasi. In this module, we are going to discuss a very major issue of phoneme, syllable and word accent. Although language systems are to a very considerable extent independent of the medium in which they are manifest, the natural or primary medium of human language is sound. For this reason, the study of sound is of more central importance in linguistics than in the study of writing, of gestures, or of any other language medium, whether actual or potential. But it is not sound as such, and not the full range of sound that is of concern to the linguist. He is interested in the sounds that are produced by the human speech organs insofar as these sounds have a role in language, said by Lyons. Lyons makes a few important points just to mention. Number 1, by and large, language systems are independent of the medium in which they are manifest. Second, the natural or primary medium of human language is sound. The study of sound is consequently more important in linguistics than in the study of writing, of gestures or of any other language medium. That may be actual, that may be potential, as I already told you. Now, do we then study all sounds that a human being can produce? No. The linguist is interested in the sounds that are produced by the human speech organs insofar as these sounds have a role in language production. Now, there are various levels of linguistic analysis. By now, you must be familiar with the various levels of linguistic analysis like phonology, phonetics, morphology, syntax, semantics. We have already discussed them so far. So, we are concerned here in this module with phonology. What is phonology? What does it deal with? Phonology deals with patterning of speech sounds. Mind it, patterning of speech sounds. We have just discussed what we mean by the term speech sound in previous modules, and now let us talk about patterning of speech sound with certain more examples. Look at the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears narrated by Bob on your screen. Can you make sense of this rather unfamiliar sequence of sounds? The spellings of the words are different from how they are usually spelled, and it is our knowledge of how sounds combine our phonological knowledge that we bring into play here to understand what is written. You can see what I mean from the translation that follows. I read it for you. Once upon a time was there 3 bears, Mama Bear, Papa Bear and Baby Bear. Live in the country near the forest, nice house, no mortgage. One day Papa, Mama and Baby go beach, only they forget to lock the door. By and by comes Goldilocks. She got nothing to do but make trouble. She push all the food down the mouth, no leave a crumb. Then she goes upstairs and sleeps in all the beds. Now with this, we come to phoneme. What is phone, what is phoneme, what is allophone, minimal pair and principles for phonemic analysis. Phone. Phones are the sounds in a language. The number of phones in a language is the total number of sounds that are allowed by a language in its inventory. Languages, they have two levels of representations. One is orthographic, which I mean it is in the written form, and the second is phonetic, that is in the spoken form. So either we speak the language or we write the language. So it is either phonetic or orthographic. The phonetic representation is the representation of sounds of a language. While we write, so sounds, they are not that important. The relationship between the two representations is not always direct or 1:1. A single orthography may be realized as two or more different sounds, hence leading to two or more phones for the same. The letter S is realized in 4 different ways in the following words. S as in slow or sin. Slow, sin, this is S. Then when we say dogs, busy, we have S, but the sound is not S, it is Z, Z, dogs, busy. Then we have sure, sugar, this is again S, but we pronounce as sh, sure, sugar. Then we have pleasure, vision. We write orthographically, we write S, but phonetically we pronounce another sound. Example 2. The letter C is realized in 2 different ways in the following example. K as in cat or cow, and another one as S. The C is pronounced as S as in cell. Again, different letters might just have a single phonetic identity. The voiced alveolar nasal N is realized in spelling as N as in need or now. Then funny, running, we have different sound. Then gnaw, sign, we have GN. Then knife, no, we have KN. Then pneumonia, pneumatic, we have PN. So orthographically we write PN, KN, GN, but we pronounce as single N, that is another sound. Another example, the voiceless labiodental fricative is realized in spelling like F as in fan or fire. Then when we write double F in offer, affair, but pronounced the other way. Then O-U-G-H we write, but we say cuff. O-U-G-H in rough is again, the sound is F. Then PH as in photo, as graph, we again say F. So phonetic representations are independent of the written representations, and hence phones need to be looked at in isolation from the rest, from the other things. Now, what is phoneme? Phoneme is defined as a minimal distinctive unit of sound. The word sound has already been defined earlier, and the word minimal connotes that the sound cannot be subdivided into smaller units. Word distinctive means that each phoneme is distinct from the other in a native speaker's mind and helps the speaker listener distinguish one word from the other. For example, T as in tar, as in star, as in writer, as in eighth. Then we have B as in bar, as in dub, as in rubber. Then phonemes are the broader level representations of a group of sounds that are supposed to be varying because of their phonological distributions. In this sense, a phoneme is supposed to be the underlying form for the various surface forms that feature in a language. So while the surface forms are what a speaker, hearer really encounters, phonemes are their abstract identities. This will become clearer in the sections that I'll discuss later. Allophone, less talked about but very important. Various surface manifestations of a phoneme are known as allophones of that particular phoneme. You can read aloud the words below. P as in pin, P as in tap, pin, tap. It is evident that the same phoneme P in English is realized in more than one ways. The sound P at the beginning of a syllable is usually aspirated, and is represented as p in phonetic representation. The other sound that is also the underlying phonetic form of the two sounds is p is differently realized. The different realizations are contingent to different phonetic environments. Allophones of an individual phoneme have mutually exclusive phonetic environments. It is because of that environment that an individual allophone is supposed to sound different from or same as its underlying form or from other allophones of its family. Thus, allophones are said to be in complementary distribution. You must note that complementary distribution need not be mistaken as an optional distribution, as such a case would lead to a free variation rather than an allophonic variation. Phonemes, on the other hand, are in contrastive distribution and usually have phonetically overlapping environments. The underlying form phonemic for a group of sounds is always one of the sounds that are represented on the surface. Allophones are characterized by two things: mutually exclusive phonetic environment and phonetic resemblance. Two sounds that are too dissimilar phonetically can't form the allophones of a single phoneme. Also, sounds that are recognized as allophones in one language because of their complementary distribution might be recognized as two distinct phonemes in another language. For example, in Hindi, the two sounds p and p are separate phonemes. We shall talk about this in the next section. A minimal pair is a pair of words that are alike except for one phonological unit and carry distinct meanings. For example, tar and ba are minimal pairs as they differ only in their initial consonants and have distinct meanings. Minimal pairs are used to find two phones that are phonemically distinct in a language. In the above example, the substitution of t with b brings about a difference in the meanings of the minimal pair they create. So, t and b are two separate phonemes in this language. Let us discuss principles for phonemic analysis. Two important principles utilized for forming the inventory of a language and for putting two sounds as one under a single phoneme or as two under different phonemes have already been discussed. Now, what are these principles? Principle of contrastive distribution and principle of complementary distribution. What is principle of contrastive distribution? This principle employs minimal pairs to find different phonemes in a language. Contrast in meaning would give separate phonemes of the language. In case we don't get a contrast from a pair that looks just like a minimal pair, we would call it a case of free variation. Now, principle of complementary distribution, in it, two sounds that occur in different phonetic environments and never appear to be in the same environment as other. For example, when the environment in which one sound appears is exclusive of the one in which the other one appears, we call the sounds as having a complementary distribution. Sounds in complementary distribution are taken as allomorphs of the same phoneme if they show a certain affinity on the phonetic level. Let's talk about syllable now. When we describe phonemes, we see discrete units of sound and not a continuous flow of sound segments like the way language naturally exists. But this continuity is not random in a language, and sounds are organized in the formation of bigger structures such as words. For example, we can say the larger organized sequence of sounds that are produced as a unit while speaking are called syllables. Since the syllables contain more than one segment of sounds, these are identified as the suprasegmental features of the language. Divisions of syllables are intuitive to native speakers, and they know when one syllable ends and the other begins. Hosely and Parashar, they have classified and tried to define the syllable based on two approaches, the phonetic approach and the linguistic approach. There are various theories like prominence theory, chest pulse theory, or known as pulse theory. Both these theories have their limitations. The sonority theory is another approach to explain the syllable. In the prominence theory, some sounds in an utterance are more prominent than others. In the words similarity, for example, the peaks of prominence are marked by the vowel sounds. Since the number of peaks of prominence decide the number of syllables, the word has 5 syllables. According to the pulse theory, which focuses on muscular activities and lung movements in the process of speech, we can say it has been experimentally observed that the number of chest pulses accompanied by increase in air pressure can determine the number of syllables produced. Now, what is the structure of the syllable? Syllables are made up of consonant and vowel sounds. Vowel sounds are the nucleus of the syllable, while consonant sounds usually serve the peripheral position. Syllable can be divided into two parts, onset and rhyme. Rhyme again can be divided into two parts, nucleus or coda. Onsets are the initial positions in a syllable taken by consonants. They act as the releasing factor. Rhyme has the nucleus as its first position, which is filled in by a vowel, and then one or several consonants may take the coda position. A syllable may not have onset or coda or both. Sometimes syllables take consonant sounds in their nuclear positions. Such consonants are called syllabic consonants. A syllable can't have more than one vowel. When two vowel sounds come together, they are realized as a single vowel sound and popularly known as diphthong. You can see on your screen various examples of various types of syllables. Now you can consider the following example: mutton, rhythm. In both words, the second syllable is marked consonant and vowel, CV, but the final sound in both words is a consonant. As stated earlier, in some syllables, the consonant functions as the nucleus of the syllable. Such consonants are known as syllabic consonants. Consonant cluster is another word in English, and it is possible to have up to 3 consonants at the beginning of the syllable and up to 4 consonants after the nucleus. So the sequence of consonants occurring together at the beginning of the syllable or at the end are known as consonant clusters. Now, word accent, from the Latin word accentus, that means tone, intensity or signal. We have this word. In modern English, the word accent as used in modern English has broader connotations and can be utilized for more than one linguistic features. Accent is the intensity or prominence given to a certain syllable within a word or certain words with a phrase or a sentence. Thus, accent can be lexical, that means within the word, or prosodic, within the sentence. Word accent, that was the syllabic accent, now the word accent. Word stress, lexical stress, is the prominence that is given to a certain syllable within a word by providing it a greater intensity that can result in features such as increased loudness. A syllable that shows relative prominence is said to be stressed, accented or tonic, while the other syllables that are relatively less prominent in a speech are unstressed or atonic. One should keep in mind that the use of the word tonic is different from the tone, that is phonemic distinction in many languages. There are 3 types of word accent: fixed word accent, variable word accent and regular word accent. In languages that have fixed word accent, the position of the accented syllable is fixed. For instance, a language with a penultimate word stress will almost always have its penultimate syllable as stressed, like Polish. And same way there will be languages that will have their stress on the first syllable only, Icelandic. Other languages that have variable word accent like English have a less predictable stress system, and factors like etymology, morphology and grammar of the word decide which syllable would be accented. Such variations in the position of stress can bring a contrast to the meaning of a word. Thus, stress can be phonemic in such language. For example, permit as noun or as verb, then insight and insight. Some other languages do not exhibit either fixed word accent or variable word accent. Such languages have words where the stress is marked with some very simple rules. These rules are highly predictable in nature, and so these languages are supposed to have a regular word accent, for example, Latin. Languages might show stress in their writing systems as well. Some languages like Spanish, they use different marks to show the accent. Languages with a variable word accent like English show a random position of stress. There are also various words where native speakers have different opinions on the syllable to be accented, like television or television. There are languages that have levels of stress. Some languages have only one level of stress. When certain languages allow more than one stress, we can see two stressed syllables in a word, primarily and secondary. Linguists like Chomsky and Hale have described 4 levels of stress in English, but there is no consensus on this issue among other linguists. In fact, the case for English being analyzed using only one level of stress is well argued by many linguists. To summarize, we can say that it is very important to understand where is the rhythm, where is the accent, where is the stress, what are their various patterns, how to use them, when to use them and not to use them in different circumstances, in different words. It is important to understand a language properly and to communicate a language properly. We already know that there are some analyses that have showed that some languages might be seen as entirely lacking stress, such as French. So in this way, when we deal with English, which uses stress in a proper way, so we must understand its pattern as well. Thank you for visiting EPG Pathshala.